All right, guys, what we're going to try to do here is teach you a little bit about how feedback works. So positive feedback, as we talked about in class, is the snowball effect, and the example we used in class was the Cold War. And negative feedback is nice, you reach a dynamic equilibrium. So in positive feedback, one change, such as having more nuclear weapons from one country, causes a similar change, which is having more nuclear weapons from the other country, and they keep playing off of each other until things are out of control. Whereas a negative feedback, that's what you're used to in school, in a functioning world where the students will start to get a little rowdy, and then the teacher will say, you need to calm down, and then the students calm down, and then the teacher kind of doesn't give them any response for a while, so they get rowdy again, and so the teacher will yell at them again, and then you reach an equilibrium where it just kind of goes at a steady pace. So how does this work in the human body? Well, one example of it is thyroxine regulation of metabolism. You guys know that thyroxine is the hormone that regulates your metabolism, and it's produced by the thyroid gland, which is right here. So when the thyroid gland releases thyroxine, that goes to the target cells of the body and it speeds up their metabolism. But some of that thyroxine also goes to the hypothalamus, which is in your brain. And the hypothalamus senses that and it says, we need to stop making thyroxine. So it sends that signal to the pituitary gland, stop making thyroxine. So the pituitary gland stops secreting thyroid stimulating hormone, or it secretes less of it. Thyroid stimulating hormone travels through the blood. Some of it winds up at the thyroid gland, and that's what actually stimulates the thyroid gland. So with less thyroid stimulating hormone, the thyroid gland is stimulated less, and it produces less thyroxine. Metabolism slows down, and the hypothalamus says, we're making less thyroxine, we need to make more. This is the negative feedback part. So now it tells the pituitary gland to make more TSH. More TSH is produced. The thyroid gland is stimulated, producing more thyroxine, speeds up metabolism, and now the hypothalamus says we have too much thyroxine, and then it reverses the loop. And then the loop keeps on reversing, and this results in a nice steady state of thyroxine production and a nice steady metabolism in a healthy human. So let's look at another example, and we'll look at body temperature. Okay, so if you get too hot, then what are some things that you could do to cool yourself off? Well, you could drink water. You could sweat. That'll help cool you off by the evaporation of water from your skin. You could wear less clothes. Or you could become less active. So, and less active you're familiar with because in the evening when you settle down to either go to sleep or maybe watch a TV show or something like that, you become less active and your body cools off and you go to grab a blanket or something like that. So when you do less chemical reactions in your body, they produce less heat and you cool off. So all of these things are going to make your body get cold. And when your body gets cold, it's going to have to do some things to heat itself back up. So these may be exercise or movement. They may be to add clothes. An involuntary reaction you may have is to shiver. Or you may want to have some warm food. All of these things will cause your body to warm up. So now your body's hot, and now we're into that feedback. When your body's hot, you do these things on the right-hand side, that cools you off. When your body's cold, you do things on the left-hand side to warm you up. And this is a negative feedback loop that results in a dynamic equilibrium or homeostasis, a constant internal state. All right. And so if we graph your body temperature over time, it would look like this. This would be time, and this would be temp. And your body temperature is going to always kind of fluctuate right around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not a steady line. It constantly goes up and down a little tiny bit. All right, let's look at another example, and this is the classic example of negative feedback that you might see on a Regents exam, and this is regulation of blood sugar. So the first thing that you need to know is that, as we mentioned in class, the islets of Langerhans in your pancreas produce hormones, secrete hormones to regulate blood sugar. And the two hormones are insulin, and insulin is a hormone that makes your cells permeable to glucose. And this is important. Your cells need glucose in order to carry out cellular respiration. And so if no insulin, then the cells will not be permeable, of your body will not be permeable to glucose, and they will not get their glucose and be able to carry out their life functions. So having insulin allows glucose to enter your cells, which is going to lower your blood sugar. And it lowers your blood sugar because the sugar is going into your cells from your blood. So the other hormone is glucagon. And what glucagon does is it causes the liver to release glucose. So one of the functions of the liver, we've talked about two other functions. One is to produce bile that emulsifies fat in your small intestine. And the other function that we talked about of the liver is to break down toxins as part of your excretory system. But another function of the liver is to store glucose as a starch, and the starch is called glucagon. And glycogen. Starch is called glycogen. So if the pancreas releases glucagon, then it stimulates the liver to break down some of that glycogen into glucose. The glucose then goes into your blood, and it raises your blood sugar. So this is how your body can get sugar to the cells if you haven't been eating sugar. So let's look at a situation where you have low blood sugar. So if you have low blood sugar, your body is going to sense this, and it's going to release which hormone? It's going to release glucagon, and that is going to cause your blood sugar to increase. All right, so another way that you could raise your blood sugar also is to eat sugar. And then it'll just get into your blood directly through your small intestine. So those things will raise your blood sugar. So now we need to get the blood sugar lower, and so what will happen is your body will release insulin, and that'll lower your blood sugar by letting the sugar go into the cells. And so by balancing the release of these two hormones, your body reaches that homeostasis again. So the key theme here is that negative feedback results in homeostasis. It results in a dynamic equilibrium. Your blood sugar is not always the same. If you eat a bunch of sugar, a bunch of candy, drink a bunch of soda, then your blood sugar is going to go up. So your body needs to release insulin to get that sugar into the cells. Likewise, if you haven't had anything to eat in quite a long time, and say you did that and exercised to use up a bunch of sugar, then your body's going to need to release glucagon to add sugar to the blood, which will now get into the cells. Okay? So diabetes is when your body is not producing insulin. And so the result of that is that sugar is not able to get into the cells, so your cells can't carry out their life function. And the symptom of it is that you have high blood sugar, but the real issue is that the sugar is not getting to the cells where it needs to be. Let's talk about maintaining respiration. Sorry about the squiggly there. Maybe we can incorporate that into our drawing. So to maintain respiration, we can talk about two things, and that is your breathing rate and your heart rate. And they are delivering what to your cells? They're delivering glucose and oxygen to your cells for respiration. Okay? And what they're removing from the cells is carbon dioxide, and they're carrying that to the lungs where you can exhale the extra carbon dioxide. So the way that your body regulates this is you have neurons that actually can sense carbon dioxide levels in your blood. So if you have high CO2 levels, in your blood, then what's going to happen, make this kind of a fat arrow here, is you're going to increase your breathing and heart rate. And that's going to cause you to have low CO2 levels in your blood. And again, this is just how your body senses it, but the real result the real issue is that you need to have oxygen and glucose getting to your cells. You do need to get rid of carbon dioxide because it acidifies your blood and becomes toxic. So if you have low CO2 levels in your blood, then you're going to decrease your breathing and your heart rate. So again, we have negative feedback. When you have lots of carbon dioxide, you breathe to bring it down, but then when it's too low, you're going to stop breathing, which brings the CO2 levels back up a little bit. And again, negative feedback results in homeostasis. Okay, so that's the common theme. Negative feedback brings you homeostasis, and now you have a bunch of different examples of how that works. So we just got to figure out how to end the slideshow. Keep the ink for this time. And we'll close out the camera here.